So quantum computers are a threat. They're a threat specifically to people's seed phrases. They can discover these seed phrases. If that technology comes to pass, you're saying that some of the other foundational technologies that we use to secure Bitcoin will be threatened. So in this case, BIP32, which essentially allows you to kind of generate a number of addresses from the private key. And so, why propose this as a BIP as rather than just a research, right? Because if I think about the Bitcoin development process, a Bitcoin improvement proposal or BIP, is generally kind of treated as like a pretty serious kind of thing, right? You're suggesting to the network that this kind of migration happen. Obviously, we understand the threat vectors and we've established that, but why propose this as a specific BIP rather than just research that you would publish?
Well, there's already been research done into this. What we need is something a bit more actionable and a bit more concrete to discuss, right? Like how we would actually plan to address this in a way that is serious enough that we would have a BIP waiting in the wings, in addition to all the libraries needed, and also an implementation in Bitcoin Core, a pull request, and an activation client, right? Like ideally, we have all these things available so that we are able to act quickly if a quantum threat becomes more serious.
Well, I guess the other way to ask that question is, how do you know that your approach is the best approach? You're saying maybe it isn't, but this is the best that you can think of today, and you're trying to start the conversation there.
That's exactly a great way to put it. The BIP360 isn't perfect, but it's designed to solve the problem in a way that uh, sort of balances a number of different engineering constraints, including the size of the signatures and public keys that are much larger in post-quantum cryptography. And so, in order to satisfy that engineering constraint, we created a new field in the transaction, similar to how SegWit created a new field. We're we're calling this instead of the witness. There's also going to be a attestation, and in this attestation, it will have potentially a discount that could be greater than what SegWit introduced. The reason it's a new field instead of like say increasing the witness discount is because the witness isn't what they call like the best term we have for this is just the witness isn't JPEG resistant, whereas the attestation has a much stricter rule set requiring only valid public key and signature pairs to be included in the transaction, and they have to validate for them to receive that discount, like a greater discount.
Maybe a practical question. So, okay, this is the best advance, if this happens. So we're talking about hypothetical scenarios. To the person who's maybe moving their 50 Bitcoin from 2010, are there people who are more or less vulnerable? And I guess I'll introduce the idea. One of the reasons we kind of moved to multi-sig or multi-signature wallets is this idea, that you would have multiple private keys that secure your Bitcoin. In some cases, like myself, I'm a user of Casa, so I'm able to kind of use the 2 of 3 and 3 of 5 kind of wallet combination to secure, my Bitcoin. Is that more or less, resistant to these things? Is that a better thing to do, right? So maybe if this proposal doesn't move forward, are there classes of users on Bitcoin who are, more or less affected by some situation like this?
Yeah. So if you were using, say, a Taproot multisig, that would be pretty bad because Taproot encodes a public key in the address itself. Also, even if you had multiple keys behind a Taproot wallet, it would only look like one to a quantum computer, which could then just derive the key for that
Could
and
you explain
spend
that?
from
Why would that only look like one?
well, because it's just one public key in the pay to Taproot address format. So even if you're using something like Music 2 or Frost or Roast or whatever to uh, sort of interactively uh, create amongst a number of different shares, uh, a like you still need a single key to commit to once you have that multi-sig. Similar to how when you have in an older multi-sig format like pay-to-witness script hash, which starts with BC1Q rather than Taproot, which starts with BC1P. For pay-to-witness script hash, you're just paying to a hash of the multi-sig script that was initially created by the descriptor for that multi-sig wallet, right? And so that's just a hash of the script, and you pay to that as the address when you receive funds to it. So a pay-to-witness script hash multisig would definitely be a lot harder for a quantum computer to attack via a long exposure attack and even also a short exposure attack, because it also has to sort of calculate the multiple keys that go into it. And so there's going to be lower hanging fruit elsewhere on the blockchain, including Satoshi's coins and pay to public key addresses, and also reused addresses. Oftentimes, these like exchange cold wallets are reused, just like Binance and Kraken and cold.
So maybe just to
Propel.
like kind of get the threat to everyone, it's so if this happens, like even if I have my seed phrase stamped on a piece of metal and it's buried in the backyard and it's 2 feet deep in the ground, the quantum computer is still going to be able to identify that private key, even if there's no.
It's a bit more nuanced than that. So like a quantum computer probably isn't going to be able to get your seed phrase ever.
But it'll figure out the private key.
Right. It'll be able to figure out the private key for a specific address, so long as it has the public key for that. And so public key is revealed whenever you spend your coins. And so whenever you sign a transaction and publish it to the mempool, that is kind of problematic. So you might want to take it to a private mempool like Slipstream, and that would help maybe, except then there's also the problem of block reorg attacks where like a block would maybe be mined, but then other miners will build on a different block, and so you'll have your public keys exposed on the other block, but it won't actually be part of the chain, it won't actually be mined, and like the chain with the most work. And so the problem, so the way you solve that problem is with a multisig. It's not a great solution, it's not like a perfect solution, but if you're using like a 13 or 15 to secure a bridge, right, that's definitely more resistant to quantum computers than an address that, like a single sig.